Hey everybody, Friday, July 13th, hanging out in the garage. Yeah, it's Friday the 13th, but nothing bad yet, so must be an old wives' tale. So, a little update, catch up. What have we done this week? Well, it's still been kind of hot, so we haven't done an awful lot, a little bit. As we can see here, we've got some of our engine together. What we've done, let's see. We have our oil pump installed. All in. Our oil pan is on. Water pump is installed. Oil fill tube, dipstick tube, and our rear cover or bell housing, if you want to call it that, is on. Rear crankshaft seal or rear main seal is in. The front crank seal is in, as well as the front pulley is on. Now we're pretty much at the point, like I said in our last video, we need to do our cylinder heads and get those put together. That's where the problem comes in. We've had a little bit of a hitch in our plan here, and I'll show you why. This is the cylinder head off of the number 1 and number 2 cylinder. There and there. Number 1, number 2. Okay, the number 1 cylinder on this car is the one that on initial compression test was completely dead. And I know a good part of the reason why. Now, didn't really see anything in there other than the fact that the cylinder rings, the piston rings, I'm sorry, were severely stuck in that engine. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But what we have here, these are our 2 exhaust valves, and here, these are our intake valves on the outside. Intake valves larger in diameter than their exhaust valves. Now here we'll take, and I'm really kind of hoping the camera is going to pick it up, but I'm going to give this one a spin, okay? And if you try to focus on a point right in this gap around the edge of the valve as I spin it. Now this is on our number 3 cylinder. You notice that it spins nice and round, no issue. Now we'll come over here to our number 1 cylinder. Kind of do the same thing. Hope we're focused okay as I give it a little spin. And I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it's oscillating. It's not spinning true. Basically what has happened is this valve here is bent. The head of the valve is bent slightly, so when it goes back in against the valve seat here, it's not sealing 100%. So not a good thing. The rest of the head actually looks pretty good. This one here, it's even a little bit of a drag on the guide. Taking it out, try to do this one-handed. Can't really see an awful lot. There is a little bit of a shiny spot on the valve right there. But yeah, the head does have a little tweak to it, and it does have a part that's not sealing against the seat. The good news is the valve guides here on all of them and the valve seats look very, very good. Don't really see much of anything for an issue with those, which is good. The other side here, this is the valve stems stick up through the guides here, and of course our valve springs go on like so. Our other cylinder head here is still assembled. I'll give you an idea of what we have there. And here it's basically the valve springs assembled on the valves. So okay, so we got a bent valve. I'm going to theorize a little bit here on what occurred in this engine. We had a couple of different things in this, and I'm thinking that the engine, or actually the car, sat for a considerable period of time. And basically what happens is, I'm going to see if I can explain this here as best I can, make some sense. In these little engines, when they're of course are horizontally opposed, and when the cylinder goes up and down, you would think that the cylinder is going to go out and back in, out and back in. And it does, with the exception of there is a slight, when it goes out and it reaches the end, I'm hoping you're getting this. When it goes out and it reaches the end of its stroke, when it goes to come back, they will actually rock, and I'm going to exaggerate, but they will rock up like that and come back. And then when they go back out again, they straighten up and go like this. So this is kind of an exaggerated but demonstration of the motion that the pistons in these engines make. What it does on the cylinder, the piston rings on the cylinder, when the engine cocks like this, what it does is it squeezes the piston rings a little bit tighter on the top and the bottom. And it can actually squeeze them to the extent that it will eliminate the end gap in the rings on the piston, squeeze them together. So what you have is, when you have one of these things and maybe the maintenance wasn't really that great, and you got some carbon buildup and some oily, sludgy deposits, well, you park this thing and it stops. So let's just say we have a cylinder like our number one that had gone out and was about there when it shut off. So now it sits like that for a long time. The rings, like I say, are squeezed down a little bit. And this is, when I say all this, I'm trying not to over-exaggerate. It's a very slight amount. But the ring gap on the pistons in these cars is only a few thousandths. It's very, very small. And when you squeeze them down a little bit, I mean, it takes really a lot of the pressure away from the cylinders. So with the rings squeezed down like that, and now it's sitting for a long period of time in this cock position, and they'll stick right where they are. So the next time that you go to, roll the engine over or start the engine, and I'm sure somebody just got in it and threw a battery in it and fired it up or whatever dry, and it started moving, what it did is those rings stayed somewhat compressed on the pistons, so the rings are stuck, which is the evidence of all the pistons in this engine. I mean, the engine, the rings were just collapsed, crudded up, and stuck without any movement on the pistons. So that's a bad thing. Your compression will get low, you'll get dead cylinders from it, so forth. So that's one issue that we did find. Yeah, I've found that in the past, and it is enough to cause a dead cylinder. And I've actually had some engines where you mix up like a little cocktail, put it in the cylinders, and it will free them up. A little bit of solvent type stuff gets down the rings, let it set, kind of work them back and forth, and kind of play with them a little bit, and you can free them up, and they'll be okay. This particular engine, I didn't go that route because you know what? It's just a play toy. I mean, I don't need the car. It's nothing I'm, need to be driving to work tomorrow. So, we'll take the engine out, take it apart. It was leaking oil everywhere, so we took care of all that anyways. So, we're good there. But now our head, kind of the same thing. Wherever the valve train stopped, that's where it sat. And now you've got the same type of thing going on between the stem of the valves and the valve guide. So sits, and they get stuck. The valves will actually get stuck. And this particular engine has hydraulic lifters, which will actually be a little bit forgiving on initial movement. You can actually compress the lifter a little bit, especially if the engine's been sitting a long time and the lifter is bled down. It will compress enough a lot of times to give you a complete revolution of the camshaft around. It's moving the push rod, but it's just kind of compressing in and out of the lifter. And consequently, the valve is still in whatever position it was sitting. And if the valve is down far enough, when that piston comes up the first time, or maybe even more, it's hard to say, comes up, it will contact that valve. It's very much like when a timing belt breaks on an interference engine. You have contact between the valves and the top of the piston. And what it will do is it will, to different degrees, this one here is not very bad. I think it just is a very slight touch. If I look in there on the pistons, the top of the pistons has a very, very small mark on the top of them where I could see where something had contacted it. And it's very, very light, and I'm thinking it was just enough to tweak the head of that valve. So now the valve is no longer sealing against the valve seat. So that's kind of what I'm thinking has happened here. So as far as, just put some new valve seals in and cleaning everything up and putting this back together, and it's not going to happen. So I went online last night and got looking around, and I actually ran across a pretty good deal. The valves for this little engine are only like $5 a piece, I think, was what they ended up being. So, with this and things considered, for $5 a piece, I bought a whole new set of valves. I'll replace them all. I got new valves, new valve keepers, and I did order a release bearing for the clutch, which it needs, and a boot kit for the inner boot on the front axle that was torn. And it was $27.60 freight, and my bill was $93. So I got all that stuff and ordered and on the way, and that'll take care of a lot of this. So in the meantime, I'm kind of stopped. I got a few more things I can put on. I can put the clutch on, the flywheel and the clutch, and do 2 or 3 other little small, put the motor mounts on, little things like that, and get it ready. So here we are. So I think it's been kind of hot. We're going to see tomorrow being Saturday, the day off. What we may do is go out to the salvage yard early and try to beat the heat a little bit and see if we can find some of the parts for our fuel injection. We got quite a list of parts to get. It's not a quick go and grab thing. We got some car disassembly to do to get what we need. Basically what we need is an entire intake manifold assembly with air sensor, and we need a fuel pump. The fuel pump in the carbureted cars, I think, is only capable of, I want to say, 5 pounds, 6 pounds, something like that. The car runs on like 3. The fuel injection we're going to need, I think, this is off the top of my head. I mean, you guys that know, don't beat me up about this, but I want to say it's like 35, 38 psi, something like that is what we need for the fuel injection. So we're going to need a pump. We're going to need a control unit or computer. We're going to need all the harnessing the fuel filter assembly with all, you know, hoses and high pressure hoses and stuff like that. Vacuum canister and oxygen sensor. That one there, we're going to have to probably take the front pipe out and do a little modification on that. And we are going to need a distributor as well. The distributor, or as the factory called it on these, crank angle sensor, is different for the single point injection cars. So we'll have to do that. It's pretty much a bolt-on thing as far as the intake and stuff. We are going to have to modify the distributor to fit this block. The EA81 never had this injection system on it. The turbocharged EA81 pushrod motors in 1983 and 1984 did have fuel injection, but it was multi-port sequential on those, and it was on the turbocharged cars only. Everything else on the EA81 has always had a carburetor. So the injection system, what we're looking for is a later model, late 80s, Loyal series car with an EA82, which just happens to dimensionally have the same distance between the ports for the intake runners. So should work pretty good. So that may be the plan for tomorrow. If we do that, I'll take you guys along. We'll do a little junkyarding here in the desert and see what we can find. We'll have to see. We'll see what the day brings. So that's a little update. What we got going on here. Nothing else too much new. You know, Sunday night, you know, once again, we'll be chatting on the Mumble. I'll get together there, and you know, I really want to encourage everybody that hasn't tried it. You know, if you can, try to get set up and log on. It's pretty good. It's real time chatting back and forth with everybody. Usually get you know, a good group of people in there, and a lot of different ideas are thrown around and stories and so forth. It's kind of fun. It's become my Sunday night thing. I don't want to miss it. And like I say, I encourage you guys to do it too. If you go to the channel of 265 Chevy, you can PM him there, and he can help you get set up to do it. As well as WTBM123 has a video up that actually walks you through the whole getting yourself signed up and ready to go on Mumble thing. It's very simple. Basically just your regular computer, microphone, headset, you know, something like that, and you're good to go. So like I say, I encourage you guys to do that. It's a good time. We're looking to see a few more people on there. That'd be cool. And I guess that's about it. So we'll see what the weekend brings. We'll get some more video maybe. And until then, from here, see ya.